Alrighty. Welcome back to another episode of the RLR podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Zach from Shooting Cars is going to be with us. He's been on the podcast before. It's fantastic to have him back. Welcome, Zach.
Thanks for having me back. Long-time fan, second-time caller.
I was gonna say, but,
It's gonna happen every time. You're just gonna have to get ready for that.
All right. I'm Nick. That's Matt. We are the guys from the RLR podcast. I'm thrown off by Zach now.
we're the guys from the RLR podcast, Red Line Resorts, and I think with that, let's start, shall we?
Let's get in a rolling start. Speaking of which, as Zach knows, as well as everybody who listens to our podcast regularly knows, we are big Porsche boys. So we're going to have some Porsche news this week, especially with the launch of the new GT3.
But we're doing
Well,
everybody a good service.
2021 is the year of the Porsche, by the way. I don't know if you guys officially know that, but I've deemed 2021 the year of the Porsche. Thank you.
Did see that in
Oh.
your
I
video.
was gonna say that sounds like it's from a recent video, is it not?
I've been trying to use Tumblr skills and speak into existence.
There you go.
I forget, Eckhart Tolle, I think, said that. Say it and it'll happen or whatever. So I want to get it out into the ether that this is the year of the Porsche. So hopefully that'll attract more Porsches to my life.
100%, can't agree more. I think we've grouped a whole lot of Porsche stuff today together. Lots of Porsche news over the past week.
Sorry, I did not mean to ejectocito, Coz.
I was gonna say that caught me off guard. I feel like he just left. I mean, I thought you liked Porsche.
I'm not used to all this technology. How rude would that be if I just left the podcast after that? My apologies. Technical difficulty.
It's fine. They can't hear you coming in and out. You're good. So, yeah. So GT3.
That was revealed. I think was it Tuesday of last week?
I watched the live stream. Did you watch the live stream?
I did.
Okay.
Zach,
did you watch the live stream?
I did not watch the live stream. Sorry, I was chugging water. I did not watch the live stream. However, they announced that it has like a pig nose, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that's what kind of looks like.
The two little air vents.
I mean, the most notable things that I remember. I mean, I love the shark paint, by the way. It's still my favorite. I was playing with the some of the constructors on the website, and shark blue is still my favorite color. But what I saw the most notable is they a lot of new technology. It's pretty much the same engine from the race car, as well as ultra light glass, ultra light carpet, cutting weight, and
like
even with all the stuff that they had put in. What's that?
Almost everything's carbon on it.
I mean, or carbon, or sounds like some kind of carbon plastic hybrid, something. Of course, it goes on a diet, right? Cuts weight. Sounds like essentially was it 500 something horsepower, I think, if I remember correctly. But the most notable thing was it basically, I think, maintains the same power to weight ratio, even with all the new technology, and it has the active front arrow. So. Yeah. I think that was a huge deal. The wing looks all right. I mean, we had talked about that before. As long as the wing is
right color,
full body color, it's two-tone, it looks all right. I mean, looks good, frankly, my opinion. I love it.
Yeah, I think. Well, I texted you that it would look really good in Bordeaux red.
I of course, if you pay for it, right? I don't think off the bat that Bordeaux red is an option. But have you seen an injection blue? Because that is giving me a run for my money with the shark blue.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the shark blue, but the is it gentian or Genetian blue? Either one.
Whatever the hell it is.
I like it. I like.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the blue either. I think the blue looks a little tacky. That super light blue. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, the shark.
Yeah, blue. Yeah. If you're going for in your face, then yes, right?
Yeah.
But you have
Honestly,
to be.
I would rather take purple or orange at that point.
I think
controversial topic, I know.
I think,
and this is also coming from someone who owns a Cinderella blue vehicle. So,
is that the paint coat of your RX-7? Is Cinderella blue?
It's Stardust.
Oh,
but the reason I bought that car was because Bella wanted a Cinderella blue car, so that's why I picked that one.
Oh.
So yeah. But yeah, it's Stardust Blue. It's was it T6 is the paint code or something? But it's a sparkly blue. So
So I'm
I don't
looking
really have
here.
that much room to talk.
See, but even your RX-7 color would look really good on that.
Yeah, it's a little light. It's a very 80s color because it's
Yeah,
a single stage paint.
true.
But
So
I
I'm
agree.
looking. What about a green? I'm looking at the. So I'm
Like a
looking at for the.
forest green is coming back.
Yeah, a
The
forest
Toyota
green, yes, but the
Sienna.
Python green, I say no. The Python green's like that light color, kind
Yeah,
of
or their
Yeah,
electric
no.
green.
like Crayola
Like an
crayon like
olive
color
almost.
green.
As long
No, no,
as long as
like you think of
it's
Crayola
not
crayon green,
as
that's
long as
the
it's
green.
not anything near acid yellow that they use on the hybrid badges.
Oh yeah, that's
Funny
terrible.
enough, I've got I think the preliminary colors here. Of course, it's Porsche. You can pay for everything. Looks like they've got typical white, black, guards red, which I mean I love red, right? It's the red you
Yeah,
would think
and
of.
the guards
A
red is
more
just a little
dull
too.
racing yellow, frankly. What a Carrera white metallic, jet black metallic, a got I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. The agate gray metallic, dolomite silver metallic, GT silver. Wow, lots of silvers.
That's a lot of colors.
Gentian blue, shark blue. Apparently, there's one called crayon, which doesn't actually look bad. It's like a gray white combo. It's not
Wait,
terrible, frankly.
it's not chalk. It's
It's
because
crayon. I guess that would be how I would describe it as like a kind of chalky. And then there's
well, because
lava orange,
they
which I
have
think is cool,
chalk.
and the python green, which I do not like at all. So
Well, no, I've never been a huge fan of the Python green, but
a purple would be. I mean, it's Porsche, right? If you want paint whatever, they'll. I mean, you could persuade them to probably do whatever you want if you're willing to pay. It's because port white. Porsches you pay for four wheels and an engine and a seat, and everything else is optional. So
where are you seeing crayon? Because all I'm seeing is chalk, and I know chalk.
I'm actually looking in. It was a post from a Porsche group I'm a part of on Facebook, and it's from the launch colors, and it looks like it's one of the 15 launch colors. So
Because what I'm seeing
I can't
is
say the person's name, obviously, but it's from someone posted the 15 launch colors in the group.
because I'm looking at Porsche's official announcement. They've got a gate gray, aventurine green metallic, black, carmine red, which I think would look fantastic. Carrera white metallic, chalk, a custom unreleased color, which will probably be the RS color.
Yep.
Dolomite silver, Genetian blue, GT silver metallic, guards red, jet black metallic, lava orange, night blue metallic, python green, racing yellow, and white.
I'm gonna have to try to trade. There's unfortunately no articles, links, individual, shall we say. It looks like might even be a dealership in the UK though. But
Maybe they call chalk something else overseas.
I mean that could be it. Maybe there might be different legit colors for the UK versus US market. Maybe I'm not sure to be honest, but I don't know. I'm not gonna say that these are the colors. This is just what I'm seeing right now. So I mean,
Yeah.
first off though, I don't see a chalk. I mean, I also don't see there was the blue you mentioned. I don't see that blue here. It's a different named red, probably a different color red than I'm seeing. So who knows what's right? But it's still in the infancy of the release anyway. So
Yeah. Speaking of
with that, I mean,
Porsche,
it's
yeah.
cool. I think the sound is amazing as usual.
Oh,
Seems
of
like they
course.
were able to do more techno wizardry and keep keep the beating heart of the GT3 pretty much as is from I think the last generation, if not a little bit better. So
Well, and like I said last week, sound is a huge factor for me, and to hear that flat six roaring.
set the record right around the Nordschleife of under 7 minutes, right?
Yes.
Current took the record from the 918. You were telling me, correct? If I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
It did. So.
Which is very, even to someone who's driven around Nordschleife in a video game, that's a tricky course nonetheless, and that's really dang impressive. So.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what becomes of the RS version. Weight cuts, maybe hopefully a power boost, and just see what kind of a monster that car is, right?
Yeah. Well, with the aero package on it, I see it being a track day killer. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, it's nuts. More so on the I guess other thing I didn't know about, but you found for this week, Nick, is sounds like Porsche might be doing something similar to what Daimler and Mercedes Benz has recently announced they're doing with a split.
yeah. So I don't know about the split. The split is more or less just rumor. But what Daimler and Mercedes did with they're not really splitting, but they're splitting on paper for the sense of it being a stock market thing.
Rebranding.
Yeah, well, or just to be able
Well,
to
both,
list the
frankly.
stock. Yeah,
I mean, Daimler's going on the Frankfurt Exchange, and then thus a follow, of course, then to follow, rebrand to separate the two, trucks and whatnot to Mercedes and their stuff. So
yeah. So Porsche's looking to do the same thing from the VW group. They're looking to get listed, which could mean a split from VW, which would be extremely interesting.
yeah, I'll buy some stock on Porsche. I mean, even more support for for the love of Porsche, right? I don't care how much it costs. I want some shares.
Why don't you go ahead and cover the factory news?
Oh, the China stuff. So that was something that I had. I don't remember from where, but it was actually from about a week and a half ago. We just didn't put it in last week. Seems like the Taycan is selling really well, obviously, and thus that means there's a lot of demand. Plus, you have the rear-wheel drive, cheaper option coming to various markets, including the U.S. So there's clearly demand, which means they need to build more faster, right? Apparently Porsche has ruled out putting I think the Chinese market is a huge market for the Taycan and orders based on what I was reading. Apparently they've ruled out putting essentially a factory in China because people want cars from Germany. And I can fully get behind this initiative. Even if
Yeah.
it sounds like they might maybe make some new factories in Germany, but they want their cars to be German made as much as possible and hence not putting a factory in China. So that is, I mean, that makes sense, right? The fact that Porsche is a German car is a huge selling point, and the Germans know how to make cars, right? So I thought it was
Yeah.
kind of funny, frankly. Whereas, a lot of other car companies, like anybody else, frankly, would, it might make logistics sense to put a, factory churning stuff out in China if that's a huge market. Porsche doesn't seem to be interested in that. They want to, it seems like, keep it, in Germany, and that's a selling point even to the Chinese market. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
See, looking at a different article here. This is something from Motor1.com. Apparently, that Porsche invested 6 billion euros into its Zuffenhausen factory for building the Taycan back in 2019, and apparently they're planning to only ramp up production in Germany in the years to come. So, not to mention, we saw another new debut of a Taycan type model with the Cross Turismo. So, how much more demand could we see for the Taycan, frankly?
well,
I hope a ton. I really hope a lot.
yeah.
I really like it. Like I would say, if money was no option, I mean, obviously, essentially a larger would it be a boot? I think for the European market,
Well,
trunk for the
it
American
essentially
market.
takes the Taycan and turns it into a shooting brake, which
Yeah, I love the looks of it. I do have to say though, for my current uses, if money was no object, I would still prefer a standard Taycan. But if you need the space and you
Yeah,
need
I'm
and you like that
wagon all
look,
the way. I think the Panamera wagon is one of the best cars they've made
I
well,
recently.
does it
I
look
think
like
it's
I think it looks like a Panamera. It
yeah.
looks
I would be
it
very shocked if it was vastly different than the Panamera. I doubt they just copied and pasted the roof line, but also I
mhm.
can't imagine it's probably a modified Panamera roof line.
To me, when I saw a video on Porsche's YouTube channel. It was talking. I don't know who the guy was. About it. It frankly looked like a modified, Panamera from, like middle roof back with the front of a Taycan. And frankly, it would make sense. You've already got both of those cars. Find a way to mash them together and not reinvent the wheel. And then all of a sudden, you're servicing a brand new market. Frankly, so
Right.
good on them. Frankly,
well,
it's
and the Panamera has been selling so much better since the redesign. And
Yes.
Is
So much better.
would this be the first all-electric wagon?
I don't.
I mean, there's the Chevy Bolt,
is
but
it a
that's
wagon,
a hatchback. That's
Is
not
it
like
technically a wagon though?
Well, I think it really depends on the tailgate.
Huh.
If it's got a big tailgate, I'd say it's a wagon. It has that long roof line.
I would lean towards agreeing with you. Yeah, and I'm not aware of any other. Let me do a quick search on Google and see if I can find
There's
it.
someone that made a, I think it was a company either did a concept or actually built a wagon Tesla Model S. It wasn't a factory option. So it might be the first electric wagon, which would be a big game changer.
Everything I'm seeing
They've had the
is
hybrid,
a hybrid,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah.
In terms of wagons, and I'm looking on Google across, I guess, just whatever's coming up, and
What was
I know the cars that are coming up, and I know that at best they're hybrids. They're not fully electric.
And the Prius
Y-
V never was a full
Ooh.
electric, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was full electric, but they definitely had a Prius wagon.
Did they?
Yeah, it was the Prius
Yeah, it
V.
was. Yeah,
Let's see.
No-
Prius
no
wagon.
bueno.
The Prius V? No, that's
Yeah,
that wasn't a
or
wagon.
something like
though.
that. Was it the C? They did a whole
I thought the
Prius
C was the
family
little
for
guy
like
in
2
the-
years. You remember that?
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
trying to get really
Yeah.
family focused for a while.
For a little bit there, it looked like Toyota was just going to split off Prius as like its own brand, like Ford's trying to do with the Bronco.
Yeah, and after absorbing Scion,
Yeah, it just wasn't worth it.
no. But either way, yeah. I mean, well, Zach, you and I got to truly experience the Panamera on a track.
Right, yeah, and that's what I'm thinking of. Geez, that thing had such a long, stupid name.
Hold on.
Was
Panamera E
Panamera-
Hybrid 4 ST Cross Turismo, blah blah blah.
pretty much. Like
It's the
I got in the
Panamera.
Hot Wheels of it, and
Yeah, it's
the
the
name doesn't even fit on the bottom of the card.
no, it's the. Let's see, Porsche Panamera. Hold on. Fill space for a second. I'm gonna go look at the Hot Wheels. I'm just gonna pull it off.
Yeah, it was like the
One
Porsche
thing I found-
Panamera S Gran Turismo Estate? No, something like I don't know. But that thing, that was a
Here
twin
it
turbo
is.
V8
It's
paired to a hybrid drive system.
Yeah, so this is a Porsche Panamera Turbo SE Hybrid Sport Turismo. Is what we drove.
Yeah. That's
We
too
rode
much.
in that one. We drove the GTS.
Not the longest name of any car, but pretty high up there.
Yeah. I don't know what the
Let me
longest
try
name
to
of the
find
car
the
is.
BMW. There's some BMW that was so long. Fill time,
It
please.
looks like,
anyway.
according to Porsche, I think it is a wagon.
So that makes it really interesting. It might be the first electric wagon, and I love the look
All
of it.
electric wagon.
Right, all electric. And when I say
Apparently it's
electric,
still
I'm
in a
not talking
prototype
about a
stage, though,
hybrid.
so
I'm
we'll
talking
see.
about full electric.
Yeah.
So
You
we've
know
got
what? In looking at the Cross Turismo, apparently, it sounds like the Taycan they've delivered over 20,000 Taycans in its first year, or did, which
That's a lot.
That's a lot of
impressive.
Taycans.
That's really impressive considering what the Audi e-tron did. What 4,000?
Did it?
I mean,
like that.
we talked about the new whatever the new Audi. I think it's the.
It was the e-tron GT that we talked
E-tron
about.
GT, which is.
I'd be interested to see. It looks like a smaller, essentially and cheaper, slightly smaller, slightly and cheaper Taycan. I'd be interested to see how that one sells, but then again, yeah, the Porsche, even the rear wheel upcoming, Taycan being cheaper but still more expensive than the base, Audi e-tron GT. Maybe people are just clearly, frankly, willing to pay Porsche prices for it. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I think the reason we've seen so many electric luxury cars is that you can kind of justify the price then. Because if you want an economy car with the same amount of technology as one of these EVs, you're going to be buying like a $40,000 or $50,000 economy car. You know, so I think the the luxury is just sort of almost a side effect of the price,
Well,
which
not to
normally it's the
mention,
other way
I'm sure
around.
that depending on country or state or whatever, there's tax write-offs, which you know one could argue do or don't offset the car cost of the car. Depends on the way you look at it, right? But
Yeah.
I'm sure that those are still going to be here, especially as multiple states in the U.S. government and governments around the world tried to shift in more recent years to clearly EV heavy more so than ever.
It'll be interesting to see. Toyota just put out, they redesigned their Toyota Mirai, which is only sold in California. It's a hydrogen fuel
Yeah,
cell
I
car.
saw that.
And
Yeah.
they give you $15,000 worth of hydrogen. They give you a special credit card that is just for hydrogen and has $15,000 on it.
I watched a review on that from I think Doug DeMuro, and
Yeah,
one thing that strikes me is how awesome is that, but how sparse are the fueling quote unquote stations?
very sparse. If you
Even
don't
with
live
the
in the
15
area,
grand, right? Like,
yeah, if you don't live in the towards any sort of fill station for hydrogen, I mean, it's
and it's
impossible.
even with 15 grand from the manufacturer from Toyota, hydrogen is still expensive. I mean,
Yeah,
no
it was
matter.
like $70 or $80 a fill up. Someone was talking about
Really?
and that's for like 400 miles.
See that, but I gotta be honest. In my personal opinion, like EVs, I think are the way of the future. I'm waiting for the day where we have the rush for EVs, like like for hydrogen powered vehicles. Like the fact that eventually the economy of scale ideally would bring the price down for filling, and means of production would go up, and blah blah blah. I would love to be driving a car that its byproduct is water. I mean,
Right.
Well,
The
that
thing
would give
about
me true peace of mind over an EV with, hey, I'm drawing power. How is that power created and that, environmental impact? A hydrogen one, I think, is the true game changer, frankly. That would give me true peace of mind.
Yeah, I
personally.
think in all reality, it's the actual fueling infrastructure for hydrogen is something that's more sustainable. With
Yeah.
electric cars, really the only option to get refueling as fast as gasoline is to do hot battery swaps, where you
Mm-hmm.
pull in, they literally take out your battery and give
Yeah.
you a new, fully topped off battery.
Doesn't like the Rimac 2 or even Rimac 1, doesn't that how that you had to have like a team that came with you to the racetrack to replace your batteries and on a track day or something like that?
I'm not sure. That sounds correct.
I heard that. I
I mean, ideally,
I
if you're
think it was
paying, but
brought
then
up
again,
in
you got to be
the
paying
Top
those
Gear.
prices to afford essentially a team to do. Well, I mean, if you're going to do a battery swap, I mean, you can't do that, right? Like, I mean, just think of the cost to do
Well,
every
I've
cost,
actually
frankly.
been talking to a couple people in the industry recently, not automotive side, but tech side, and
Hmm.
they said that a lot of companies are spending research dollars on hot battery swaps. So
Well, if
it could be
racing
something down the line, but I mean, there's going to be health
Well,
risks with that. There's going to be,
we saw them look
a
into
bunch
it.
of things.
Yeah, we saw them look into it in Formula E for a while, and what it
I was
ended
gonna
up
say
being
that
was
same
just
thing. They did do battery. I mean, not technically battery swaps. They did car swaps, but they even got away. Like they've developed a battery that could last an entire race. So, is the future in, fast, safe, efficient battery swaps, or is it in better batteries and charging infrastructure? I mean, you know what I mean? And no matter what, you're still creating these batteries that, all the metals and all the caustic elements that are in batteries. I mean, I know
Yeah,
it's just a whole lot of
I think
underlying
if we had
features.
long enough range, there wouldn't be a need for it. But until then, if you run out of electricity, you're stuck wherever you are for at least 2 hours, at
You can't do
minimum,
that
bare minimum.
walk of shame. Well, you might need a battery swap then from a tow truck. You can't really do a
Yeah,
walk of shame to a 10 miles
yeah,
down the road to a gas station with a little tiny jug.
yeah. You're
well.
not going to come back with a wheelbarrow with a battery in it.
So that
Hmm.
that and I love this conversation, but I know this is also kind of digging into our fuel for thought as well.
That's it. Yeah, let's leave the rest of this. Yeah, for I think we have a spot for fuel for thought. Let's. I like. It's good.
Because I've got some thoughts on that, but I'm going to hold on to that. But that being said, we've also got Porsche developing a synthetic fuel this week.
Porsche's just
This will
amazing.
round out our Porsche news for the week. But Porsche is developing a synthetic fuel. It's a hydrogen and carbon dioxide blend that supposedly the new GT3 can run off of without any modifications. And all of their
Very
vehicles.
interesting.
That's frankly incredible. If that's, jeez.
That just
So-
doesn't sound real though. Like
I was thinking the same thing.
I don't know.
I'm
There's
sure
just
it
something
is, but
about it.
that doesn't sound like. I gotta do more research on. I didn't hear about this, frankly. Nick, you had kind of this. I'm first I'm hearing
Yeah, and
about
it
this
just
from
kind
you.
of hit news
I,
on Friday. So,
that doesn't.
and for those
Hey,
of you
the
listening,
science has
we're
got to be there.
recording on
They're
Sunday.
German, right? They wouldn't go
Yeah.
down that path unless there was, unless it was logical, right? So,
Yeah,
Ideally.
man,
Germany has had some bad ideas though. I don't want to point out anything.
this isn't that kind of podcast.
The
right?
bratwurst was not their best invention. I'll just leave it at that.
Hey, Nuremberger style's pretty good. So,
Agree to disagree.
All right.
well, with that, maybe let's head to a different to save ourselves from any kind of interesting discussion. Maybe head to a different country. I want to talk about something real quick. That Jaguar is a Jaguar, if I'm pronouncing it correctly for the folks in the EU. Sounds like they're going to be going through a rebrand. As we all know, Jaguar seems like consistently has trouble selling cars and staying alive. Somehow they do every year, trailing behind all the other car manufacturers in their sales figures. But
Well, we could
sounds
ask.
like
We could ask the resident vehicle expert here.
yeah. What do you think
I'm
about
boiling
those,
right now. I'm boiling.
Well, then let me
Here's
let
the
you
thing.
continue to boil. It sounds like Jaguar is going to be rebranding and will become an all electric luxury car brand from 2025 onwards. So that's in just 5 short years, a rebrand to an entirely electric luxury brand, which I find pretty cool, frankly. I don't know what model one of their EVs is.
I-Pace. E-Pace?
I think it's the I. Whatever it was, I remember walking down the Chicago a couple years ago from the Chris Kindle market. And I'm like, I saw a Jaguar and I'm like, what is that? I love it. I love the look of it. I just love everything about it. It couldn't hear it, frankly. I think it was full EV or at least a hybrid. And I went home on the drive home. I was in the passenger seat with my parents, and I just was, soaking in trying to find out what it was, and I think it was the I-Pace. So I do love Jaguar styling. I really do. Exterior. So I think it'd be cool to see
Was it
them as an
was it
all
the
EV.
E-Pace or the I-Pace?
It's the
I'm
I-Pace. Because I reviewed an E-Pace and I had all of this electrical car research done,
definitely
and then
an
I
I-Pace.
showed up and it was a Ford Focus ST engine in a SUV.
Got
Definitely, I looked at it now. Definitely an
I-Pace.
I-Pace. Definitely an I-Pace.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, range 234 mile, battery only.
Yep. I mean, I did watch Zach. You had a recent Jaguar review, right? And I agree with your comments there. So hopefully,
Yeah.
as they rebrand, they'll fix some of the issues in the interior and with their powertrain. So
Here's the thing. Rebranding to EVs, at least in Jaguar's case, is literally getting rid of the sole reason that Jaguar has ever been cool, which was the V8s, which was the V12s.
throaty,
Yeah.
European muscle. Quote.
Right. So I reviewed a 2018 Jaguar F-Type base model. But it had the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder. The interior was actually great. The actual interior felt very nice, had great materials, and being in that car was actually a nice experience. But once I put my foot down, nothing happened. It was a 2-liter turbo that made sub 300 horsepower. And then, stack on top of that, they asked $63,000 for that car. $63,000 for sub 300 horsepower 4-cylinder turbo. It's insane. But I have ridden in, and hopefully when the weather gets nice, I would review the actual turbo V8 F-Type all-wheel drive. I rode in one last summer, and unfortunately I didn't have time to film it. And that's something very, very special. It's a very good car. I love it. The SUVs don't matter. They're not that great. even the sedans aren't even that good. Really, the F-Type is the only car that is any bit special from Jaguar, and I don't see that moving into the electric world unless they make a electric 2-seater convertible, but that would be the first of its kind as well. So, well, no, just kidding. The Tesla Roadster, second of its kind.
Oh, true.
I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I'm not necessarily in favor or against their quote unquote, all EV rebrand, but you do have a good point that I hadn't thought about. Is that taking away the entire, nostalgia of Jaguar?
Well, do you remember the old Top Gear episode where Jeremy had, I think it was the V12 Jaguar?
Oh,
and they were in some Eastern Bloc Europe country or something, and they were putting tennis balls in the headers and launching them off.
Yep.
I think they were in India.
Oh man.
Like that, those were so cool. Like the big V8s, the throw, you think of a Jaguar, it's gonna pounce. It has this sort of
Jeremy
muscle
says,
behind
think
it.
of a Jag or something like that. He says, not like a Jag.
When I think of Jag, I think of thick balsa wood on the dash. I think of leather. I think of big engines. I think of sort of this off-brand.
I can't help but think of what Jeremy Clarkson said in one of the Grand Tour episodes, where joking about the Mercedes and Jaguar, like vehicle testing. Take a car off a line, put a cat in it. That we know Mercedes knows that the seals on the car pass test if the cat's suffocated by the morning. Jaguar knows that they built the car properly if the cat hasn't escaped by the morning from the car. So. Yeah, you think of the lovable quirks and also the lovable legitimate parts about a Jag. So I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see what they do if they offer a big sedan, nice if they offer everything that a Jag was except for the engine. I don't know. I just feel like that whole company is just kind of focused around high cylinder, throaty engines. But then again,
frankly,
the last 10 years they've just been making SUVs, and I forget even what I drove. I drove some sedan 2 years ago, and it's so forgettable. I don't even remember the name of it.
Well,
I think it was a supercharged V6. Might have just been a V6.
Hey, they've had some forgettable stuff, right? So maybe this is the way to stop the forgettable stuff. I mean, who knows? Ideally, if they can go with their, I think if they can go with their rebrand and keep the Jaguar nature to the best of their ability, I'm all for it. But we'll have to see. Time will literally tell. Frankly,
I drove a 2017 Jaguar XE35T Prestige all-wheel drive.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah,
not quite as much as
the
Porsche.
Porsche, but yeah, no, it didn't really deliver to the point where I was driving the Jaguar I-Pace a couple months after, and I said in the video, originally I cut this out, but originally I said in the video, I was like, wow, my first Jaguar product, completely forgetting that I had driven one just a month or two ago. But it was so ridiculously forgettable that it didn't even strike my mind for days after filming. It was only when I was editing that I realized it.
Wow.
Huh.
So,
hopefully this doesn't mean they'll make more forgettable cars.
To be honest, it's a disappointing turn for me that Jaguar is rebranding to EV. I understand that that's the way the world is going, but
maybe not. Maybe you wouldn't expect it from them right now, whereas you would expect it from, say, Ford with their EU announcement going all plug-in hybrid by just a year after 2026.
See, that makes sense to me, though.
Yeah.
So Ford said that they're going to stop building and selling all internal combustion engine vehicles in Europe by 2026. So that's all the Ford sub-brands too.
Is that including the Mustang as well?
In Europe, yes.
Sold in Europe?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
The one that I was reading was definitely talking about the EU specifically, not worldwide.
So I'm wondering if they just won't get the Mustang for a couple of years until it is fully switched over to EV.
Probably.
Unless they're going to drop something on us in 2023.
I mean, they didn't they dyno an electric actual Mustang, not the Mach-E, but like the actual Mustang.
Oh, the Mach-E's
Didn't
not
they
a Mustang,
show it at
but
like
that's.
SEMA or
I
something?
mean, it has the name, but it's not a Mustang.
That makes me think of an article I saw about the Mustang. I saw something about the Mustang recently where let me find it was something about quote the most powerful. It was on Drive Tribe. I was perusing Drive Tribe a couple days ago. It was something about quote the most powerful Mustang ever is coming with like almost
Yeah.
800 horsepower. And
I'm assuming it's going to be hybrid.
okay, never mind. That's not okay. Okay, good. I think this is what they were talking about is a Roush Stage 3 supercharged V8.
Oh
So,
wow, okay.
good. It's not a lot. I was worried that's like, it's going to be, all electric, conversion of whatever the torque or the Newton meters to horsepower, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So, sounds like I'm still happy there.
It's interesting to think though that some auto manufacturers are just straight up not going to survive this change.
That's true.
I mean, like we're
I
looking
can't
at the
help but
last
wonder
decade
if
of a
Jaguar.
couple.
I mean, along that point, Zach. I mean, I wonder if Jag will. I've always thought of Jag as this very niche buy. When I see him, I'm happy to see him on the road, but I don't think anyone quote unquote people really buy them over the other German brands or even Japanese or brands or whatever.
Well, I'm thinking
will
of
they even
more,
survive this?
like even the international brands, like stuff that we don't get here in the States. How is, or more specifically, how is Stellantis going to handle this? I mean, we saw that they dissolved SRT, which is sad. Because
it sounds like they're not going to do away. They better not do away with SRT products because I love SRT products. Frank.
Again, here's the thing: SRT has been dissolved before. Dodge, as much as I love Dodge, Dodge is the crackhead of the car industry. And they canceled the Viper, and then they brought it back like 45 minutes later. And
then they canceled again, and aren't they technically still selling them or something that I was reading the other day?
Yeah, and then they've hinted that they're going to bring back the Viper again. And it's like literally, it's drug habit behaviors. There's no continuity. There's it's all lies. And it's just like
but that's what we love about it. That's why the SRT wing is amazing, because their solution to a lot of problems is sitting around the table, maybe doing a line of something and saying, you know what we need?
A line of substance.
We need a line of you know what we need? That big SUV we have. Let's put the Hellcat motor in it. Yeah, that's an idea.
And then we'll give it over to John Hennessy, and he can make it 1,000 horsepower and all-wheel drive with a carbon fiber drivetrain.
Are they making them? Is there
yes,
going to be like a Chrysler, a minivan?
Was that just?
I don't think so. That was just a meme, I think.
I hate minivans. That might be the only minivan I actually enjoy.
See, I love minivans. So.
I'm still very much against, any minivan. However,
the Hellcat motor in it. Come on.
I'll drive.
I'm
not with you guys. I'm gonna buy a minivan like ASAP.
Hey, I will say my grandparents bought a 2020. I'm not sure what trim model Chrysler Pacifica, and they don't hate quote unquote minivans like I do. They never liked them, but I gotta be honest, from what I'm hearing from them, they're thoroughly impressed, frankly, with the new
I was
Pacifica,
impressed.
So
I've got someone that I work with has the Pacifica, and it's the Pacifica with the blacktop edition, and I'm genuinely impressed. I am still not a fan of minivans, but if I had to have one, that would be the one I would lean towards.
My thing in minivans is, name another car model that can't do what a minivan can. Space, carrying people. Just get a decently sized crossover or like a Subaru Outback or something like that. I mean,
nope, minivan all the way.
I'd rather like a GMC Acadia. I'd rather have that. Basically the same car. Yeah, I don't have the full.
Matt, you're
voice,
tall.
like you
Sit in
said.
the third row. Sit in the third row of a GMC
I
Acadia.
wouldn't
Let
be
me
sitting
know
in.
how it goes.
I actually have sat in the third row of a GMC Acadia for an extended amount of time, and I was the only one back there, and I was diagonal the whole trip, so I know
Yeah,
what you're
how was
talking
that?
about.
See, when I reviewed the brand
But
new
a
Odyssey,
6'1" adult is, I arguably enough, not going to be sitting in the back of even a Chrysler Pacifica minivan. Come on, it's
yeah,
for
but you
the
can
kids.
sit in the back. That's the thing. And yeah, okay, not a 6'1" adult, but like once your kids become like 12, 13, I mean, if you
Oh, by then,
marry
but
someone
don't you
who's
get rid of
also
the
tall,
minivan?
you're no,
Don't you
you
have a
keep the
minivan for
minivan.
the purposes for which you need a minivan to carry around the kids and whatnot, and then as your kids grow up, you change car models to an SUV or a crossover.
I mean,
Dad
yeah,
gets a
maybe
fun
when they go
little
to
Bronco.
college, but like
So not you're
high
running in the
school,
back.
like band practice, like
Ah, man.
soccer practice,
Oh, boy.
recitals,
SUV's the
church
backbone.
events.
SUV.
Yeah, but it's just easier getting into a minivan though. Have you
That
ever
that
tried
I will
getting
give
into
you
the
that.
third row of a high up SUV?
I will give you that in
It's
terms of
plumber's
getting into the
crack for
third row.
days. It's not
That
graceful.
yes, I will give you that. Yeah, I will give I will give you that one, frankly.
Here's another thing, like kids wise, first of all, minivans are lower to the ground. They're easy to get into, but also they don't have swinging doors. So
Mhm.
child seats getting them in and out of the opening of the door is a lot easier when the door is not in the way.
Yeah. One thing I did, I think we were at the auto show. Maybe it was one of the first auto shows that I went with you, Nick. I remember seeing. I don't know what maker it was. I don't know if it's stuck right, but there was I think a vacuum incorporated
Yep,
into the
Honda
car.
Odyssey has it,
I
baby.
will say that's a great
Wait, but I
invention.
thought I thought Honda was taking out. I thought they were taking it out for this year, Zach.
Not the 20. I drove it. Ooh, what did I drive? Shoot.
Because
That's a
I,
great
I thought I
idea, though,
heard
especially if you're a kid.
I thought I saw a joke article written by, and I have to go back and figure out who it was, but it said that the Honda Odyssey is going to suck less because it didn't have a vacuum in it this year.
Um,
I think you were
No, I
telling
drove
me
a
about
2021 and
that.
it had a vacuum. Here's the thing:
Huh.
if you watch my 2021 not Toyota, geez, Honda Odyssey review, and I walk around the back to the Honda vac that's in the trunk, I genuinely did not know that it had it,
Mhm.
and so my reaction is genuine, and I was so excited I broke my GoPro mount because I was trying to adjust the camera and it just snapped the plastic tabs off of it. So yes, that has it. I think almost all top trim minivans have that option. I think the Sienna and the Pacifica have the option as well. But the Pacifica, I think it's in between the second and third row, where the Odyssey it's only in the trunk, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But it has a vacuum, so I'm not gonna like complain about it. But
Interesting.
minivans all day, man. I could go on and on and on about minivans. I'm a big fan.
Well, and I'd say I know that we want to maybe hit some stuff in fuel for thought. So, would you guys be all right if I spin through the quick things here with the rest of
Go for
rolling
it.
stuff
Yeah.
and get us moving
Why
on?
don't we get through these? We'll
Just to
keep
let the
moving the.
people know what we find interesting or
Yeah.
noteworthy. I found some that says the Subaru apparently planning to do a spin-off, much like other Japanese or what is it? Much like what's a good example? Let me think here.
Like
They're going to spin off
Hyundai
this.
spinning
Looks
off
like
Genesis.
yeah, something like that. They're going to spin off. It sounds like into the Outback and the Forester into a brand called Wilderness. So primarily off-road oriented, which I mean I think the Outback and Subaru Forester followings will follow them along with. So it could be getting in on that game right for the spin-offs. Looks like McLaren released a new, well, what was it, a new car, the Artura, if I'm
It's a plug-in
pronouncing
hybrid.
it correctly.
Yep.
Which it looks amazing, especially I think in one of the press colors was light like limey silvery green, which I loved. It's worth a check. Doesn't have a reverse gear apparently, which I'm still not sure how that works, but apparently it doesn't have a reverse gear. So have to see what that does. What else we have? The Cozy Coupe got a much needed redesign. And for those who might not know what the Cozy Coupe is, it's that little plastic, little Little
Made
little
by,
Tykes, Fisher,
yeah,
Price.
exactly.
It's the first car all of us petrol heads ever had, frankly. And it it looked terrible in its last generation with stick-on googly eyes and whatnot, and it deserved so.
I just
Go
want to
and check
say
it out.
that the Cozy Coupe has gotten redesigned more recently than the Nissan Frontier. So
Nissan,
if you want
listen up.
something to be depressed about this week, that's it. Nissan is so behind the ball that literally a children's toy is passing them up.
Oh boy.
along
If we
along
want to
the
talk about
depressing
other vehicles that aren't going to survive the EV wave, Infinity.
Oh.
along the depressing line, Zach, you Bruce Myers, the inventor of essentially the Dune Buggy, has passed
Yeah,
away a couple days ago.
the
So
fiberglass shell that people would put on Volkswagen chassis
who
that we
doesn't love a Dune
come
Buggy?
to know and love as the Dune Buggy. Which actually, there was a kid at my high school that used to drive one to high school, and I remember it randomly rained one day.
That's
and
cool.
It was a tough one for him. Because it did not have a top. It was just a fiberglass shell on a Beetle platform. But yeah, he passed away. It's sad. One of the most iconic cars I'd say that come out of the mid-century
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think rounding out here, let's see what else I have. It looks like the JD Power 2021 JD Power rankings of dependability studies have come out, and Tesla did very poorly with in that JD Power for the dependability ranking. I looked at vehicles that were up to even 3 years old. It currently is tracking, I think, 177 specific problems in 8 categories with Teslas. So we've talked about this before, but Tesla is not doing so hot right now. Hopefully, as they find fix some production issues, and I'm not sure exactly what specifically those 177 individual issues they're tracking are, but it's probably worth. Apparently, quote from this Inside EVs article, quote, owners reported on average 121 problems per 100 vehicles. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So on the other end of that spectrum, it looks like the Porsche 911 came out near the top of said in 2021 JD Power dependability study. So one last little jab in there.
Well, owners of the 911s don't drive them enough to break them. They're always at Cars and
could
Coffee
very well
talking about
be
which
it.
stitching they
Yeah.
picked.
All
But
right.
nonetheless,
That's the thing that really bothers me about 911 owners is that they don't drive them as much.
for the most part,
They're
the
the
people
best
that buy
driving
them
cars.
don't use them for what they're intended for.
They're the best driving cars ever, and then they're not
Yeah.
used for that.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I want to hit here is Toyota. Apparently, those who know Toyota, and I'm a big fan of just-in-time production and like supply chain logistics and all that. I almost studied that in college, and so Toyota is known for one of the pioneers, if not the pioneer, of like the just-in-time delivery system, which essentially means you're not stockpiling product or parts to build things. You're getting deliveries just in time, so there's no delays in production, there's no massive inventory overhead, blah blah blah. Apparently Toyota is shifting out of the just in time rule, and they've also stockpiled I think it's about 4 months worth of semiconductor chips, so they are not yet being affected, coupled with slight production declines on some of their facilities. They're not yet being affected by the semiconductor chip shortage. So,
But 4 months is not going to last a while with those chips.
I'm not saying, I'm not future. I'm not saying it's future proof, but based on this article written by Anjani Trivedi from Bloomberg Opinion, they're not yet. It will most likely creep up on them, but they're not yet hit like other
not yet,
manufacturers are.
but it will. 4 months is not enough time. That's a lot of cars for Toyota to put out
But they've also slowed down production lines too. So that's not saying that they have taken steps that other manufacturers have, but they don't have the shortage that other manufacturers yet have it that other manufacturers do.
Yeah.
So who knows? But sounds like what I would expect from Toyota, frankly, is on the cutting edge of efficiency and so on. They're playing it smartly so we'll have to see how that unfolds in the next 1 to 4 months. But for now, I'm pretty impressed with Toyota. So, not that I'm not usually.
Sure.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Toyota will always be fine. I'm not worried about them.
They are smart. I mean, like I said, they pioneered just in time the just-in-time system, and that almost single-handedly. I actually was fortunate to one of my I'm in the States here. I'm a Nick and I are both Freemasons, and one of the guys in our lodge worked with the one of like the second gen CEO of Toyota, and actually got to see that the early versions of that just in time system, and told me about it in production. And from the stories that he told me, it's just incredible what Toyota was able and is still able to to do, frankly. And yeah, I have all the respect in the world for him. So
yeah, and going off of that, one time I saw a Toyota at Great Wolf Lodge Water Park.
Mhm.
So pretty much
well, with that, I think let's head out of rolling start and quickly
let's move on over to paddock chat.
Paddock chat.
So,
not much to report here. We saw of Alpha what the heck? I can't remember the name now. AlphaTauri, right?
Yeah. So
you got me totally off my game here.
AlphaTauri's got their new clothing line, and obviously their
their car, which I love the car. It looks like it has white rims, frankly, which I really like the AlphaTauri car. It looks like a distinct change from the previous, and it's pretty cool. So go check it out.
We also learned that Yuki is only 3 tires tall.
Oh, you and I were joking about the other.
He is either 6 helmets or 3 tires tall.
You know, as us Americans will literally measure anything using anything to measure things except the metric system, frankly. So he's 3 helmets, or was 6 helmets, 3 tires?
He has 6 helmets, about 2.5 to 3 tires tall.
Looks like about like two-thirds a teammate.
Yeah,
something like that.
Two-thirds of his teammate, or since we are not using metric, he is 5'1.5".
So that's some jokes going around. Obviously, we still see Haas on the social media platforms getting grilled for anything that they post with
Nikita Mazepin. Yeah.
It looks like Red Bull confirmed their car debut date to be the 23rd of February. So in a couple days here, as we're recording on the 21st, I believe tomorrow we also see who's releasing. Someone's releasing tomorrow. Who's tomorrow?
Tomorrow's the 22nd, which would be who?
Someone debuts tomorrow. Let's find out. Google.
In the meantime, while you figure that out, Pirelli also released but didn't release which tire compounds they'd be using and which tire compounds.
Pirelli made it confusing, frankly.
Yeah. Well, Pirelli always makes it confusing, and apparently they can't even keep it straight themselves, as we saw in what was
the article.
Was that
the gist of what I was reading is it sounds like we all, as we've talked about, Pirelli is running with slightly overall harder compounds next year, which again the drivers weren't happy about, which means less grip but more tire durability, longer lasting tires, more environmental friendly, blah blah blah, all that stuff. But it sounds like for the most part they'll be running with the same compounds of their 1 through 5 C1 through 5s at most of the races of this upcoming year, with the exception of Azerbaijan and Brazil, where they'll actually be running slightly softer compounds compared to what they did last year, which means the more towards the 5-3-4 end of things, based on the not the harder compounds that they brought in the last year not being used, or not seeing much of a benefit over the more medium compounds. So for the most part, sounds like about the same, but a shift in a couple of races to softer compounds. All the while reminding ourselves that the compounds are all, I think, slightly harder, nonetheless. Anyway, so not huge news, but worth talking about an F1. And I think I'm still trying to find the F1 car release here. One last thing, if you want to touch on, Nick, about Formula E. I think, right?
Yeah, so Formula E's first real date is set for later this week. So we've got just a couple of days before we start seeing Formula E. I'm excited for, obviously, the Porsche team to come out. I should say
Tag Heuer Porsche.
Tag Heuer Porsche team, which, for those of you who are not aware, Tag Heuer is a watch brand that Matt and I both In
Very much enjoy.
very much enjoy. I would go as far as to say we quote unquote stan them. I feel bad for saying that. I said that.
You really should.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, please. Yeah, I
Well,
deserve
in an
that.
effort
Anyway,
to kill that,
thank goodness we don't have live video because I did air quotes too, and that's even worse.
Yeah, you're not seeing me throw up in my mouth.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so
the
we're
first race.
very large fans of Tag Heuer. Tag Heuer and Porsche obviously had a huge collaboration lately, since they both had Porsche had a vehicle
Carrera
called the
model.
Carrera, and the Tag Heuer had the Carrera watch, and now they are not one and the same, obviously, but
They have a
branding
distinct
wise,
collaboration.
yep, they do have a collaboration together now.
I think. Did you touch on the first race? I did find who's being released tomorrow.
Yeah, so first race is coming up this weekend, as well as the second race. They're going to be back to back days. So
I think they're in Dubai, aren't they? In the first race.
I don't believe it's Dubai. I believe it's
I thought I was right.
I believe it's Saudi Arabia.
Isn't? Anyway, I thought that. Well, that's what I meant then. Maybe I said the wrong thing, but that's what I meant. Anyway, definitely tune into that. I gotta be honest. I don't remember best like F1's. Frankly, I have the subscription right to with the F1 TV Pro, and it's pretty easy to watch the races and get the content. I don't remember how I tuned in for FE stuff. I gotta.
I think
refigure that
Formula E
out,
has a
so
new app this year. So
I gotta
I'm gonna
find
be
out.
checking
So.
that out.
Well, if we see something, which you guys know, we'll last thing in paddock chat here with Formula One related is tomorrow. Red Bull is releasing their car on the 23rd of February. Tomorrow, being the 22nd of February, Alfa Romeo is releasing their. So we will be seeing Alfa and Red Bull on the following day, and then it looks like we don't have another car, or in Ferrari's case, I guess we do have a team debut on the 26th of February, technically. But we don't have another car debut, I think, until March. Frankly, March 2nd, maybe with Merck, something like that. So we'll see.
Yep.
And I think that's it, and that'll bring us into let us grab our luggage, hurry to the gate agent, and walk down the jetway. I'm going to be doing these Richard Hammond.
Oh, okay. I guess we're doing Conversation Street style stuff. Okay. Alrighty. Is this gonna be a mostly me segment again?
I think so. Yeah, I think I'll hit some of our extraterrestrial things, ending it. But yeah, I think so.
So, Sikorsky, largely known for their helicopters, as well as some other planes, but mainly their helicopters and cargo lifting objects. Or cargo lifting modes of transportation, and the very, very large package distributor of FedEx are working together on a single pilot cargo plane, which will be very interesting since you usually need two pilots to fly something large enough to carry cargo.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work, frankly.
Cargo the size of FedEx. Obviously, they do have some single engine, or I'm sorry, single pilot, but also single engine aircraft. Like I know for a little while they were using some Cessna, not the minivan, but Cessna Grand Caravans, the 208 models. But those are for more remote locations in Alaska, things like that. Bush flying mostly.
Yeah.
So very interesting to see a full-size aircraft with a single pilot. I don't know. It's been rumored that the co-pilot is AI, which is unsettling, especially since I grew up, for some reason, always having the movie Stealth jammed down my throat, which fantastic as far as graphics, or a 3D rendering. It looked very realistic in the movie Stealth. Terrible movie, not very well acted. But check that out if you want something to look at some great visual effects and some not so great acting. There is a Chinese brand. I don't know if it's supposed to be pronounced crake or crack or just CRAIC. But they are developing essentially the next competition to the, as Matt has spelled it, a rebus, the Airbus,
Oh, whoops! I spelled it wrong.
and the Boeing. It's going to be a 737 A320 competitor, which will be
I mean,
very
that seems pretty
interesting.
on brand for China. We're seeing. I mean, they are making their. They already have, right? But China as a whole is just making their place known in the world. I mean, it was. I think it was only a matter of time until they brought really brought the fight to Airbus and or
A
Erebus,
rebus.
whatever. I can't even say what I typed at this point. Airbus and Boeing. I'll say it right. So, well, I mean, we'll have to watch that and see how the sales compare. And I mean, I'm not saying anything, but obviously, performance as well. Frankly, so we'll have
Right.
to see, right?
It's going to be big on, supposedly their main focus is fuel economy. So we'll see. Fuel economy
That's
is
obviously
huge
big
in
in
the
the,
airline
the
industry.
commercial airline world.
Yep.
So
That being said, something with zero emissions and zero fuel usage is Arthur Air, who's known for their. It's never flown before, but it's
yet unflown electric. Was it electric air taxi essentially?
it's an electric air taxi with VTOL capabilities. So VTOL is vertical takeoff and landing. So essentially, it is going to be Zach. Actually, you would know this. It is like some of the. Oh, what was that plane in Halo that you could take off straight up and down, and then you push the button?
Well,
and
real
the-
life
Hornet?
would be the Harrier.
Well,
But
Hornet,
yeah,
the
I
Falcon,
think it's the Hornet.
Banshee.
No, I think
no,
it's
I
the,
don't. I
think
don't think it was the
Hornet.
Hornet. It was the. Well, the Hornet
Google.
could do that, but
Give me your secrets.
wasn't there one where the stuff came down straight forward and then it flew like a plane? Or am I thinking
It's
of
the
something
Hornet.
else?
Maybe it was not the Falcon.
I thought it
I
was
don't know.
in one of the newer Halos.
I
Anyway,
promise you, I'm looking at it right now. It's like a helicopter, like there was two helicopter-y jets, like Iron Man repulsor, something kind of things.
Yeah, that's the Hornet.
Yeah, it's the Hornet. I think that's what we're talking about, right?
no, I don't. No, it's not the Hornet. Hold on, I'll figure it out. But anyway,
You keep talking. I'll figure
vertical
it out.
takeoff and landing. So that's what Archer is developing right now. They had a
The Falcon.
gigantic order from United Airlines working with their sub. I wouldn't. It's not sub brand. It's a partnership with Mesa Airlines, who manages some of their United Express flights. They bought a ridiculous ridiculous dollar amount of these Arthurs, even though they've never been flown before, for air taxi. So essentially, for those of you who have been listening for a while, we're based in Chicago. Chicago has two major metropolitan airports in it. We have Midway and we have O'Hare. Midway is the smaller of the two, but essentially,
And O'Hare is O'Hare.
and O'Hare is O'Hare. Yeah, exactly. Now, what you might have is now O'Hare does have Southwest flights landing there as of recently, and they are planning on
But
moving more flights over
traditionally,
there.
they never did before because they
Traditionally, Southwest owned most of the terminal gates at Midway Airport. So, using that as an example, let's say you've got, actually, better example, Porter Airlines does not fly into Chicago. They are a Canadian-based low-cost carrier that flies to and from Toronto out of Midway. If I needed to connect through one of their partner programs at O'Hare, instead of me getting a taxi and then having to go back through TSA, now I could take an air taxi using an Archer on United, land from a Porter flight at Midway, take the air taxi over, and get on my plane at O'Hare without having to go back through security.
Not to mention with the vertical takeoff and landing capabilities, you wouldn't necessarily have to follow, same getting in line to land at one of maybe a traditional, landing strip at O'Hare potentially.
Yeah, there's obviously going to be very restrictive flight paths for things like
for
that.
Sure.
Because you don't obviously want them getting in and out of
Crossing the
yeah,
active. active
Right.
runway
So
stuff.
so essentially, you'd have taxi points, which are essentially helipads between the airports, and then as long as that air taxi does not make a stop anywhere else, you're still within what's considered the safety zone or the restricted zone. So that
It
way
looks
you
like
do not have
United
to.
put up a $1 billion, or quote unquote United put up a $1 billion order for about 200 of the units of
Right.
the aircraft. So
Now that being said,
this also was
let's
coupled with
let's
the
put it
reverse
in
merger.
perspective. That's 2.5 787s, and they've got 14-ish in their fleet, I believe.
Yeah,
So
but this also is not just it's also Archer going public. It's coupled. This deal is coupled with a $500 million essentially investment banker led reverse merger that'll essentially take Archer Aviation public. So I think all in all they're going to be getting I think like $1.1 billion in funding across this reverse merger with the investment group as well as the United merger, which means that Archer will then trade on the New York Stock Exchange, and I think their valuation initially will be something like Forbes is saying about $3.8 billion under this new deal. So this is a pretty big deal for the company, and all also hinging on like still yet to fly aircraft. I mean,
right. The-
technically not even proven
It
flying aircraft.
it scares me because of what we've seen out of like GM and Nikola, with the large all electric semi trucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Being that all of that was lies and artist renderings and fake things and people running to Walmart during the opening because it ran out of power, so they needed to go buy more double A's kind of thing.
I would think that if United, it's one thing for just, to help with, do a reverse merger and blah, blah, blah. But I think with United even putting in might be a little bit of small fish, small money for them, quote unquote, potential, decent money for them. It's United Airlines, they're not in the business of quote unquote really risky investments. So, hey, United must know something that we don't, right? So
yeah.
we'll have to see.
Obviously, they've looked at the numbers and they've looked at everything and they've seen the evaluation of it. So I'm interested to see what happens.
Speaking of United, though,
Yes, a United. So it was United 328 over Denver. I believe it was yesterday.
it was yesterday.
It was either late Friday or Saturday. But
Anybody want to see some plane parts for sale on Craigslist?
so the cowling of the engine on it was the 5th ever produced 777, flying United colors. Took off from Denver, had an explosion in the it would be the port, or no, it was the starboard wing.
Yeah. Right side.
Starboard wing engine. Lost its cowling, blew apart. There are videos all over Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube of the incident happening. And
had to, I think, perform an emergency landing. Landed safely.
Landed safely. The plane does look like it's on fire. What I believe is actually happening is just hot air, and debris moving over the open coils of that engine. But
the chief thing I think airplane engines are designed to fail and self-contain the failures or explosions. This one, right? I mean, it clearly. The engine's outer structure didn't contain whatever went wrong, and
yeah,
that's why
and
it was
it's
raining
obviously the the FAA and the NTSB are going to be looking into this. However, it is based off the pictures and a lot of speculation, which again I think is well founded in my research. It looks to be a fan blade failure, which would have detached a piece of the fan blade, thrown it into the cowling, and then the cowling ended up smashing a mid-2000s Dodge Ram in someone's front yard, and then landed as a new portal through time into someone's home.
Standing up, it was kind of funny looking, but
it also
good news
shows
is
up
that nobody was hurt. I think what I was reading last night.
No injuries reported.
Somehow, miraculously, nobody, I think, on the ground or in the aircraft was hurt. Somehow.
I will go as far as to say that it's not miraculous. Only
Really? Even
because,
on the ground?
well, the people on the ground, that, yes, that is, I'm very glad nobody was hurt. But these planes are designed to fail with grace. And I think
Oh,
it's,
if you're saying people in the air, I'm not surprised if air.
I'm glad nobody was hurt
yeah,
on the ground. And
yeah.
yes,
The ground is the impressive part, frankly.
yeah. The For those of you who are nervous flyers that might be listening, and this might be your least favorite segment,
Sounds
then
like
I'm
we
sorry.
focus on all of the
Um,
problems in the air.
yeah. What this shows is that the plane very clearly is designed with safety and the ability to get back on the ground very quickly in mind.
Even with failures.
Yeah, and mind you, the engine is spinning its fastest on takeoff. So if anything bad is going to happen, unless it's a fuel issue or, most bird strikes happen on takeoff and landing. And if you're already landing, you're already landing.
Well, there's also
which is good,
redundancy built into everything. That's one of the reasons.
right.
Problem with the Max issues, there wasn't redundancy built there.
Right, and
That's
in
why
a
you have
lot
the
of cases, it's double
co-pilot.
redundancy.
I mean, that's why I'm worried about hearing FedEx and Sikorsky working on a single pilot cargo plane, because you got a captain and a co-captain, or a captain and a first officer, I think, actually, technically.
Captain and
I mean,
first officer.
you essentially have
typically.
at least two pilots. It's all redundancy, just in case. Everything has generally a redundant system as a backup. So, and then you take that to space flight. I mean, there's even more redundant systems and redundancy built in for safety. But I mean, you're safer flying on the ground still, even with this, than you are driving a car. So, yeah. Well, with that, maybe
why don't you touch
one
on our
last really cool thing in terms of like in the air is I don't know if anybody might have heard, but NASA landed the rover on Mars a couple days ago. NASA successfully landed the Perseverance rover on Mars. I do not remember specifically where. I think I remember reading that they landed it on near an ancient dried up lake bed. So I think the continued search for life and scientific investigation goes on Mars. I think Mars is what 120, 130 something million miles away. So think of how hard that is to land an what I would assume I think is the most sophisticated rover we've ever landed, over 130 million miles away from where we are. That is, without understating, a feat of engineering. And I think another cool thing is the Perseverance rover also has a drone with it to help with aerial reconnaissance and kind of scientific investigation as well, to maybe scout further missions or places to investigate. So I don't know for sure what the expected lifespan of the rover is, the operation of this, but nonetheless, hats off to NASA, and another step closer to learning more about Mars. Some of the pictures, that the high res pics that we're getting back, are incredible. Listeners know that I love I love space travel. I love astronomy, and I'm super thrilled. It's beyond words. It's really really cool to be back on Mars, quote unquote, with a new scientific platform. So I will be watching. If there's any notable news brought forth by the Perseverance rover, I will personally be watching it very frequently. Sorry, very frequently, because it's just incredible. Frankly, I can't wait to see what more we can learn about Mars, because it's just fascinating, to be honest. So, well done to NASA.
Absolutely. So I think finally, this will bring us to fuel for thought, which
I want to get Zach then back to and get his opinions on something that he won't compromise on a car. Something he won't compromise on in a car.
I think this is going to be a recurring topic as we have guests.
It's interesting, right? Like I'll recap. Mine was have to see where I'm going. It makes a difference driving when I've driven vehicles with non-LED headlights and LED headlights, and I enjoy driving at night. So for me, I have to have LED headlights. Period. Nick, I think yours was what?
Mine was
if I remember
engine sound,
correctly?
or just the sound that it makes in general. I guess. Because in all honesty, I love the sound that the Tesla Roadster made. That was it, even though it was more or less just a gearbox electric noise.
That's still a cool noise. So I Formula
Yeah.
E, I think it's so cool.
So Zach, what
Zach,
about you?
what's yours?
Is this just for like new cars? Like if I was going to look for a new car, or
Just
like
in general, what is something if you're gonna get a car, new, old, blah blah, I guess for me, like LED headlights would maybe be something more towards newer cars, but just in general, what
yeah.
is the one thing you won't compromise on in a car?
I was gonna say, like for a new car, Apple it has to have Apple CarPlay and it has to have radar cruise control. Those two I will not budge on. And I did not budge on when I was
Really?
looking for my car.
Radar
Yeah.
cruise control?
Yes, just because so many cars have it, it's standard on all Hondas minus I believe the HRV and the Fit.
Mm-hmm.
They actually canceled the Fit for 21. Um
I've used
but
radar cruise control, and it seems like even at the lowest distance setting, it still is too touchy and still like too far away, and then it kills itself when someone slows down in front of me. Have you not experienced that then, or is it not an
no,
issue?
I use radar cruise all the time. It's the best. It's my favorite.
Okay.
Which
And every car handles it differently for
Yeah.
sure. But in my Mazda 3, it's been fantastic. And Apple CarPlay is a must just because I drove a Kia Rio, which at the time was the cheapest car you could buy in America for 15 grand, and it had Apple CarPlay. So I always benchmark it like if I can get a car with Apple CarPlay for 15 grand, the $88,000 Toyota Land Cruiser should 100% have Apple CarPlay, and it doesn't.
So here's a question about Apple CarPlay for you.
Yeah.
Is it okay if, even say a luxury car, even like Audi, Porsche prices, for example, in theory, is it okay if that, no matter what you're paying, 80, 90, 100 grand, even up to 150, right? If you pay for it and you don't get nav, even in the price you're paying, if it has Apple CarPlay, does the navigation within, it's Apple or Android Auto, blah, blah, whatever your phone is, right? Is that, I would say, is that the new standard where navigation from the factory just doesn't matter anymore?
I think in 10 years it will not matter at all.
That long?
I think
Really?
we sort of have to, yeah. Well, I think we do have to slowly phase out the people that grew up using that sort of
Mhm.
built-in information. Like I would say 10 years at the very least. I mean, there are some BMWs and Lexus products that still come with CD players, 2021 from the factory. So I mean, like that technology is going to be. It's definitely on its way out. I don't even have
Yeah.
a CD player in my Mazda.
Have you
so
reviewed a new
Um,
car recently that I can't think of one. I think I was telling you before. I'm up to date except for the last automotive like vehicle review you did. But if has there been even vehicle that you can talk about at least that is released already that hasn't had Apple CarPlay? New
I'm
car?
trying to think.
what about
Oh yeah, the the Supra coming out this week.
Really?
That Supra did not have Apple CarPlay.
or
Huh.
didn't it? But you have to pay BMW for it.
Yes, so it is an option. You can get it, but it's not standard
Oh,
on the
because it's
Supra.
basically a BMW though. I
Which
know. So
that car was. Which two things. First of all, that car was $47,000. No Apple CarPlay at $47,000
for 47
is
grand,
an
you should get Apple
atrocity.
CarPlay.
Atrocity. I said that wrong. But the second thing is that it not only does it not have Apple CarPlay, it has BMW's iDrive system. The iDrive system is terrible. I have spent many of hours in BMWs this calendar year because
Mhm.
I help my friend with another business and he drives a BMW and we're always on the road for it. And the iDrive system is so frustrating to use. It was one of the worst parts of the Supra. That'll be out later this week, the 4-cylinder Supra. But yeah, it's just like I paid $23,000 for my car, and it has Apple CarPlay. Anything above that should have it, because it's just a software thing.
Hmm. Interesting.
So
You
I
said
won't
new car.
compromise on that for new cars.
Sounds like you make a distinction for older cars then.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can't expect
Yeah,
Apple CarPlay only came out in 2014,
unless
so
it's
I'm
a
not,
Porsche where they retroactively give you products to,
which
add.
is so cool. They released it for the 986 Boxer, and I was so hyped. Um, I would say it's got to have an actual transmission. I will never ever buy a CVT product. I just don't like
Mhm.
it. Um, Even if automatic, like my Mazda 3 is it's a 6 speed. It's automatic, but it is a
Mhm.
6 speed. Um, I won't ever do a CVT. I would say engine noise is definitely up there, but I don't always. It doesn't always have to be there. For a daily driver, I really don't care that
Yeah,
much.
that's interesting. I say I maybe the Apple CarPlay thing is interesting to me because I think I've had the pleasure of some newer cars using Apple CarPlay, and also Radar Cruise. I wouldn't say, at least my experience is with Radar Cruise, has been limited to Nissans and their SUVs. I didn't
Oh
really
yeah,
care for it, frankly, unless there was frankly wide open swaths of road, But the Apple CarPlay, it's a nice feature, but I gotta say, I don't drive as many new cars, and that's not really a focus of mine. Maybe if I, had a newer car, quote unquote, all the time, that could have Apple CarPlay, that would be a bigger deal, frankly. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. You know?
I mean, well, the thing is that it's more of a principle thing to me. If I'm going to spend my money,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to spend $47,000, I should get everything I get, or everything you would get in a $15,000 car plus more, ideally.
Yeah.
So, why spending 50 grand and then someone pulls up next to me in their 2019 Kia Rio, it's missing a hubcap, and they're like, "I have Apple CarPlay. Do you?" And then you have to sit there and say no, but I'm paying $1,100 a month
Yeah.
for this thing. So,
Yeah.
it's more of just a principle thing.
Yeah.
So that's me. I don't know.
That's an interesting way of thinking about it, though,
Yeah,
because I guess I
Yeah.
never knew that that's. I
Well,
knew your
I actually
thoughts on
I
it,
get that
but
though, to be honest. I sorry to interrupt you, Nick, but when you say it's a principle thing, I get that because I got to be honest. Like for like my mom, for example, I think I've said it before. She just bought a new, not bought. She's leasing a new 2020 Nissan Rogue,
yeah,
and that it doesn't. And she's got, I think, last I checked, not the highest trim model, but one of the highest ones, and she still does not have my, non-compromised, LED headlights. So it doesn't even have fog lights on it, and that's
yeah,
and you guys know my 2003 Lexus LS430 has got LED fog. I put LED fogs in it, but LED headlights, adaptive, lane whatever, blah blah blah, motorized LED headlight. A
yeah,
2003 Lexus. I mean, and that's on principle for what she's paying, or even just the trim and model year. How does it not have LED headlight standard? Nick, your Durango as well. Same kind of thing. LED fog lights for your year and what it is, but high output halogens, not LEDs. I kind of
well,
get the
but
whole,
but then again,
you know.
my Durango's kind of an outlier because my Durango's a fleet model.
Yeah, but
So
even still, I mean,
yeah. It's true. I'll give it a pass for a fleet model,
I get at least maybe there.
but I
I get what you're
understand
saying,
the
Zach. With
idea.
it's the principle of things. It's just
Right.
as technology advances, why do we still have quote unquote, CD players, maybe stuff like that, but LEDs?
Yeah.
We can't even use, filament, halogen and curly Q light bulbs in our houses, quote unquote, buy them legally. We have these LEDs, right? How are they still not standard in every car model? You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
I get that. What changed for me is last August when I bought my Mazda 3. It's the newest, most expensive thing I've ever purchased.
mhm,
And so ever since then, when I review new cars, I have to put myself in the shoes of, I'm usually reviewing cars like, for instance, all three trucks that I reviewed last week, or the videos came out last week, were
mhm.
over seven, or two of them were over 70 grand and one of them was 50 grand.
Wow.
And so you have to think, they're paying what, $800 a month, $900 a month. You have to
Yeah.
put yourself in the shoes of like someone shelling out close to $1,000 a month, for these vehicles, if not more, depending on whatever price you get. But like,
Mhm.
it's really opened my eyes to if I'm going to be paying for something, I want it to be,
Yeah,
close
good
to the,
specs. Things.
I want to get my money's worth is essentially the thing. And I always compare it to the base model Kia Rio that I drove.
Yeah.
Nothing special, but it had the Apple CarPlay.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's been my benchmark since then. And it's just annoying because the other reason I make a big deal of it is that Apple CarPlay is just a software thing. You
Yeah.
plug in a box to another box, and then boom, you have Apple CarPlay in every car imaginable, as long as it has a screen.
Mhm.
So it's just a principle thing of, Toyota held out forever to give Apple CarPlay. They're just now giving their vehicles Apple CarPlay.
So,
They're,
do you think it
8
comes down
years
to
behind the ball.
do you think it comes down to a licensing issue, or do you think it's just that they don't want to take the time to change their infotainment system?
It very well could have been a licensing issue. I could see that happening. I don't have any solid evidence, but every other manufacturer seemed to have no issue with licensing. I mean, we're talking about Nissan has it, Mitsubishi has it. If
Okay,
Mitsubishi has it, then you
yeah.
know.
If Mitsubishi
But
has it, and if Nissan, after all this time of not
yeah,
changing their car designs, have it,
they have it.
that's
The
Yeah.
thing is with Toyota is that they tried to push their own app for years.
oh
I believe it was called. I don't think it was Toyota Tune, something like that. Even Lexus products as well. They had their own app, and then it would mirror your phone using that app.
I feel
When
like
I
they could get
first
into
started,
some serious legal trouble if you're mirroring your phone screen, though, because Apple
it
CarPlay and
wasn't
on my end, the Android Auto is very limited in what you're allowed to do on it.
right. It doesn't mirror one to one, but it put your phone up on the screen essentially. Um, and like you can control stuff, blah blah. I forget what it's called, and I had it downloaded for one of the reviews I did. But they held out for the longest. They would not do Apple CarPlay, and now the redesigned RAV4 for 2019 was one of the first vehicles to get Apple CarPlay when Apple CarPlay debuted in 2014.
Hmm.
So they were at least 5 years
That
off.
long ago? Jeez.
Yeah, yeah. So that
Wow.
Toyota has always baffled me, and I always pointed out in every Toyota review of like they're finally coming of age.
Mhm.
They gave up on their own product, thank God, and just switched to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto.
Sometimes it's not worth reinventing the wheel, even to have a little bit of the market share, frankly.
Right. So, like you said, it could have been a licensing thing, but I seriously doubt it, just based off of how many, you know, vehicles had it at the time, and
Was it
Toyota being such a powerhouse.
was it Toyota eTune?
Yes. Oh, it's like a yellow app.
Yeah, I was just looking up
Yeah,
Toyota
it's
Toyota names, but
Lexus was that way too. So yeah, but
huh,
now the Prius has Alexa on board, which is just weird.
that
That's a whole nother
what?
thing.
What?
Yeah, some cars are getting Alexa on board now, and I've always tried it in the vehicles, and it never works. It
R-
never works.
Hmm.
Huh.
But
I've, for
Interesting. I'm not sure how that. Would you even use that? I mean, what would
no,
you
I
I
mean,
wouldn't.
like,
I'd
use it
disable
why
for?
it
would you?
immediately, but that's me
You
personally.
know what I discovered last night though? I had to drive an hour to a friend's house last night, and I didn't realize that I can use Siri while driving. So I was having
Oh yeah.
Siri doing math problems for me while I was driving. I was trying to figure out what my next paycheck is going to be, so I had to do some math, and I just asked Siri, and she came up with it. I felt so
Huh.
cool. I felt like I was in the 23rd century. It was awesome.
Yeah, because with
Interesting.
me and Android Auto and my Durango, because I use the OK Google feature all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, my phone's listening to me now.
Is that the name of the phone thing, or is what? I thought it was like Steven or something.
Nah, it's just the Google
And it's
Assistant.
just it's Hey Google. That's
Hey,
stupid.
Steve. What's the
Not
weather
even
like?
a
Hey,
real name.
what's up, Steve?
What's up, Jim?
Hey, Kevin.
But
Hey, who
Yeah,
knows?
so
We'll all be eventually someday soon. We'll all be talking to our cars like driving themselves.
who's gonna start the first podcast with an AI?
Oh God, could
I
you?
don't
Let's
even
do
want to
it.
go there. That might be a pump the
That
brakes
just
segment for later.
yeah.
That's gonna be one of. I think that'll take one of two forms. A, AI will totally take over the podcast, lock the humans out, blah blah blah. Or B, it'll be, say for example, us talking to the AI, and we'll talk about something that like a dog, and then the AI say, "I know what a dog is," and start pulling up pictures of dogs from Google Images.
Yeah.
Who know? Who
Either way,
really
it's
knows?
terrifying.
Yeah, well, and one of the things, I don't know. I've been in my free time just watching more Twitch lately and Twitch streamers lately, and one of the big things was or one of the people that I discovered in the past week or so is someone called Code Miko. Has anybody have you heard of him?
No.
I have not heard of this. No.
So this woman developed a mocap suit and a complete 3D rendering of her apartment. And it's like a VTuber, like a virtual person, but everything she does, literally everything down to like the individual wrinkles on her knuckles is completely animated.
That's creepy.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's creepy,
That's
but
creepy.
it's weird because you'll watch her do an interview, and 15 minutes into the interview, you forget that that's not a real person.
That's
Also, by the way, she made a
creepy.
VR replica of her apartment.
I mean, it's not a replica of her apartment; it's a completely different apartment, but it's in
Oh.
full, like it's in full space, so
It
she can walk
sounds
around
too
her
real.
apartment, and
Mm.
it's exactly like it looks like
That's
she's
just
walking
too
around
real.
in. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, did someone tell her that she actually owns that apartment? Like, she can actually just walk around it normally without glasses on?
Well, that's the thing is that not it's not like
Yeah.
glasses. It's complete. Anyway, um, if you want to just check it out, it's Code Miko on Twitch. That's
Sounds like worth a look. I'll look at it over
Yeah.
the week.
yeah, that's a whole other genre of things that we could talk about. I know, big time fuel. I do want to jump back real quick to something we were talking about back in Rolling Start. So other applications for minivans, real quick, besides just having
Yeah.
kids. What?
Are you asking that, or do you have something prepared?
No, you were talking like I don't know. We were on that topic, and then we cut ourselves short, and maybe we
Right.
don't
about,
jump
like,
back
EV,
into it.
It wasn't minivans. It was, well, we've seen stuff with like questioning, how much range is gonna, like, things I'm wondering along our conversation is like how much range is gonna be enough, right? Like we saw stuff like this week and weeks of issues with the Texas power grid and them being without power. Zach, you had pointed out that there was a gentleman who was using his new 2021 Ford F-150 as a generator to run his house and his neighbor and deliver power to his neighbors in Texas with all their power outages. I mean, at what point, what do we really need to the infrastructure for EVs, the charging? I mean, it's one thing to be able to go to a quote unquote the pump, and how long is that going to take in replanning the way you drive, but also power grids, charging at home. How California has regular rolling power outages. I mean, range anxiety is still a real thing. There's so much with EVs that
Yeah.
is still up
Our
in the air.
infrastructure isn't ready for it. It's not. So going back to what you said and what I pointed out, there's an article about a guy down in Texas. Obviously, we know that Texas has been suffering from severe blackouts and things like that. So the reason I brought it up is because I actually drove the truck that he was using. If you buy a hybrid F-150, and you can get it on any trim level, but if you get an F-150 with the hybrid drive system, so it's a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 paired to an electric motor, a 47 horsepower electric motor, you actually get a 240 outlet in the bed. 240 volt, which can run a washing machine, a welder. It's a heavy duty outlet. Normal traditional wall outlets here in America are 120, and you actually get one of those on the dashboard of the F-150 as well. But the hybrid F-150 can be put into a generator mode and solely runs power just to that rear outlet. And a guy was using it to power his home, especially if you pay for, I think it's a $700 option.
Mm-hmm.
It upgrades the 240 outlet to, I want to say like a 7 kilowatt hour or something like that.
Wow.
It puts out an insane amount of power. Ford
mean,
put out stats where it would run a electric saw for like 4 days straight on a tank
this
of
is
gas.
a dumb question,
Like,
but what run? What? Obviously, all that power is being sourced from somewhere. What is that the gasoline power engine charging system, or like what's supplying all that power though?
yeah,
Like,
so it's the gasoline engine that is working with the electric motor to produce the current that goes to that rear outlet.
well, I gotta
Um,
think, and there is the question is, if he didn't have a gasoline or readily available, it's in the future, how would that have been possible then? I mean, they didn't have access to their own power grid, so he was creating power from, not what's the term, fossil fuels, right? So,
right.
I mean, it poses the question where, with you talked about like what battery swapping, and there's how long are people really going to sit at a charging station
Yeah.
on a drive from coast to coast, or even I'm thinking to myself, I can generally, go up north in Wisconsin on a tank and literally a tank, even in like a new, a new
I
Nissan
get
Rogue.
526 miles out of a single tank of gas in my drain.
Yeah, and the question is, at what point? But you're also running other accessories within the car and lights at night and stuff like that. I mean, how much range is going to be enough? It's one thing to have 400 miles of driving range, but what about the power needed to supply everything else? The infrastructure. I mean, our electricity supplied via either sources or coal plants, nuclear facilities, things like that. Like,
Or
there's so much that goes
or
into
look at
this.
the commercials that I've been seeing for the new EV Hummer with
Yeah,
where
what about
they're going out camping.
Mhm.
If you've got your phone plugged into that thing overnight,
You're using
if
your
you
power to get
if
out.
you leave a laptop plugged in to a cigarette lighter outlet overnight in a car,
I mean, hell,
the
pardon my
car's
French, but
battery will
you
die.
leave your car in the garage with your interior dome light on. Drain your.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and that's not necessarily a quick charge to get that back up to normal, right? So I don't know. I'm all for EVs, but I can't help but wonder, especially with issues like we've seen in Texas, what really does the future of charging and more importantly, how we supply all the new EVs what does it look like? You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think this decade is really going to be a big transitional decade. The 2020s are going to be a big transition towards
Roaring
EVs,
20s 2.0.
but I think we're gonna really enjoy if if the Silverado, if the Ram, if they start to go hybrid, and we're gonna start to get these onboard
Mm-hmm.
generator outlets. I think it's going to be a really nice time for pickup trucks and other vehicles. Hopefully other hybrids offer generator features like
Yeah.
this. I think like you said, eventually when we don't have a need for fossil fuels, obviously, you won't need those and generators would be pointless. But at
Yeah,
least for
that is the
now,
future, right? But the question
yeah,
is, are we, I think Nick had brought this up on a previous episode where, I was talking about where, we set these deadlines of hybrid or even EV full electric by X year forward, right? It's one thing to set the deadlines and maybe, people realize that's a kick in the butt to really innovate, but that's not always necessarily up to humans, right? Like, we can innovate really fast, but that also means that we also technically have the means and the materials and the capabilities to be able to do so. If we haven't yet figured those out, then no amount of, sprinting in terms of innovation will get us to the point we might need to be within the next 5-10 years. I mean,
right.
I don't know. It's well, I gotta say though, one thing. What a great marketing opportunity for Ford.
Oh
I
no,
mean,
yeah, no kidding.
I can't help but think that it's a terrible situation that was brought on from their new development, right? And for those who might not know, we talked about it before, but Texas essentially going through a winter storm, the likes that us here in the north, like our Chicagoland area, typically see as a decent, really tough winter. Texas is seeing that. And even one thing that was pointed out to me, there are places in Texas that are further south than where people go to vacation in Mexico that are seeing,
Yeah.
18 inches of snow, negative-degree temperatures, pipes freezing. Like, that's a big deal. So these
Yeah.
people, Texas's power grid pretty much was shut down, and we're not going to get into the, I've been reading a lot potential politics and private versus governmental regulations and blah blah. But this guy was was incredibly intelligent to use his new 2021 pickup and the generator. What a marketing opportunity for Ford to just prove it makes a difference. We all saw that commercial right in the Super Bowl where the guy who was building a log cabin in the woods using his F-150 and the generator to run the tool lights and all that, which was cool, right? But this is the real world marketing that they needed. I mean,
it's interesting because, well, first of all, I drove the hybrid F-150.
Yeah.
It must have been 3 or 4 weeks ago at this point, but the video only came out last week. And when I originally drove that truck, I was telling all my friends, I'm like, this thing has a 240 outlet in the bed, and everyone was hyped over it, but no one had even heard of it before. This was, even pre-Super Bowl. I think I drove it at the end of January. And so I'm glad that now that feature of that truck is actually getting the publicity it deserves, because it is a feature that I would seek out. And I think something that Ford didn't emphasize enough with that truck is that you can get that hybrid system with the 240 outlet in the bed on any trim level. So I drove
I didn't even know that. I thought it was just
No, so I drove an XL, which is a base model plus 4-wheel drive. That's it. Those were the only options. Was the hybrid system?
Ford, with Ford, you get killed on the base models, right? I think one of your reviews smartly pointed that out too.
The plastic is not great. It was tinny. It was the wheels looked bad. It was just this flat white color.
Always better going up at least one trim level.
Yeah, but the fact that they offered of, hey, if you want a base model truck but with the hybrid, you can do it. That's always been a big failure that a lot of companies go through. I mean, I was even talking to my friend yesterday. Mazda CX-5 diesel, right? They made a diesel version here in the States for 1 year only, 2019. But the issue with it is that it was only available on the signature trim level. So you had to get the handcrafted Napa leather seats. You had to get heated and cooled seats. You had to get a heated steering wheel. You had to get the nice wheels. You had to get the nice headlights.
You're not
in order to
bringing
get the
that
diesel
truck to work.
Yeah, so in order to get a CX-5 diesel, you had to pay for all the bells and whistles. I mean, it's the same thing at the top of the show we were talking about with EVs.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're offering the hybrid on lower trim levels, I think, is a huge game changer.
Well, so that's your work truck, right? Like I know you. I think you experienced the the fold down shifter and the and the the folding out, the center console, whatever it is, right? Yeah, and it's like like that's sold as the work truck, but I think you had mentioned like that's on higher trim models. That's not the work truck, right? That's that's a gimmick of a work truck. The real work truck is the base model with all-wheel drive and the generator in the back. I mean, that's the work truck, and that's some solid.
And I think it was mid to high 40 grand for that thing. I mean, the hybrid system adds about $7 or $8 grand to the price.
But
it's not the cheapest of options, but it is an option. I mean, you get a 240 volt outlet. I mean, you can power an arc welder.
And
you can power a washing machine if you have a water hookup. Like,
for some fleet sales, right? That can be a game changer for some even some small to mid-sized construction firms. I mean,
absolutely. Fleet sales are going to eat that up.
To bring full circle, I drove a Honda Clarity earlier this year. It's a plug-in hybrid, and it takes It takes 12 hours to charge on a 120 outlet,
Wow.
but it takes 2 hours to charge on a 240 outlet. Now, not a lot of homes have a 240 outlet in the garage, but if you have your F-150, just park it next to it, and it'll charge in 2 hours. You can charge your Honda Clarity in 2 hours with the F-150.
That's wow. That's
I mean, is it
that's
ridiculously backwards? Yes, but
yeah.
it exists. That's something you can do.
But in a situation like what we're seeing in Texas, if there's power outages and stuff, and you got to get to work tomorrow,
Right.
I mean,
Bada bing,
Well,
bada
maybe
boom.
that's the way though too. Right? I remember reading an article. Chevy is so behind their new Chevy Bolt that Chevy will even pay if you buy a new, was it like a 2022 Bolt, they'll pay to have level 2 charging installed in your home. Maybe that's the way forward, where if you
The
buy
Bolt is
these,
such a garbage car. I'm not
I mean, I'm
surprised.
not saying it's not, but maybe that's the way where you like part of the purchase is automotive manufacturers paying the cost to put a 240 volt in your home. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be a huge selling point because frankly, going down from 12 hours to what you said 2, that's a
Yeah.
I mean that's not
It might
obviously
have been
like
10
petrol,
to
but
2, but still. It was definitely double digits
yeah,
to
that doesn't
single
get you down to
digits.
your 5 minutes of petrol or gasoline fill up, but it does get
Yeah.
you a heck of a lot closer. Frankly, I
Yeah.
mean that's a big deal. I mean, wow, that's incredible. Frankly,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So we'll see what happens. It's a brave new world we're entering.
yeah.
Yeah, it's for a lot of reasons in both the air and on land. So and space.
Yep.
So with that, I don't have anything else unless you guys have something else you want to go over today. We've run a little longer than. It's always much better to have you on, Zach, and if we go a little bit longer.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I love coming on. Love the
Anything
show.
else anyone's got? Thanks.
I'm all set.
Well, I think then that's a wrap on this week. Once again, we want to thank Zach. We want to thank you for tuning in and joining again for the second time. I'm sure it won't be the last time, but tell the people again how can they find you? How can they reach out to you and see your content?
Shooting Cars on YouTube. You could look up Shooting Cars reviews or Prado reviews or whatever, or Rotary Life. I do a whole series about my RX-7 as well. And then Instagram is really the only one, the only other platform I use, which is shooting_cars on Instagram.
Yeah, definitely check out his channels and his platforms, guys. Zach's putting out some great content always. I said I generally will watch videos of his every time they release. So I think Zach, you had told me best that you put out content like like if you were telling your friends, right? And I think it really shows. So
Yeah, that's definitely my goal. Is like it should just be like a casual conversation. So.
yep, great content. Can't get enough. One of the best reviewers that I watch in the game. So again, thanks for coming on. We can't thank you enough. I'm sure we'll see you here again. But with that, I think it brings us to the checkered flag for this week. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. For Redline Resorts, RLR, you can reach out to us at podcast@redlineresorts.com or at Redline Resorts on all platforms for our social media handles. With that, we'll see you guys next week. But I'm Matt. Sorry, that's Nick. And once again, thank you, Zach, for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week and take care.
Thanks, guys.